What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. I saw this video and I thought it was really compelling, so I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap and breakdown from Drip Coach's SWOT analysis. So first off, shout out to Drip Coach. If you guys are not following his channel, please go to his channel. I will try to provide the link below. He spends a lot of time doing in-depth analysis on all Forex Shark projects, and I for one believe that his channel is very much underrated. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where if every one of your thumbnails says, hey, Drip's gonna go to $1 million in the next 6 months, those videos are of course gonna get a ton of views. Content like this that is really constructive and takes a little bit deeper dive into the mechanics about how these protocols operate or how businesses operate. They may not be as flashy, but the information in them is extremely important. So like I said, I saw this video. I thought it was very interesting. If you guys don't know, I spent a tremendous amount of time, many years in corporate America. So I've had to do several, definitely my share of SWOT analysis over the years. And in general, in a nutshell, if I could say what I think SWOT analysis is, it's a tool that's used by, most of the time companies in corporate America that helps you dial in your business. It's really got two parts to it. You got a kind of an internal section and then an external section. The internal section is strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, that's fairly self-explanatory, but we'll go into that more in a second here. The external factors are the opportunities and threats. Some people may say, hey, this looks complicated, but you're probably actually doing this subconsciously in your day-to-day life. But it's very valuable to actually get it down on paper. Now, you can do this yourself, and frankly, you should do this yourself, but it's much more effective when it's a group exercise or it's like meant for a team. So the topic in general can be very macro or very micro. So it could be something you're doing a SWOT analysis on the whole company, or you could be doing a SWOT analysis on just one individual initiative that you're working on. So if you're launching a new project, you're launching a new product, you're thinking about reorganizing the structure, all those things of course have strengths and weaknesses and internal and external factors. And when you get together in a group, you kind of whiteboard it out. So here's typically how I've done it in the past. Like I said, done this many times in corporate America in many different roles. And the most effective way for me was always pretty simple. You get all the team members in a room, right? Generally, this is like the leadership team, heads of the department. These guys are the decision makers. And then oftentimes there's other employees who are actually doing the work, right? Most of the time managers. And these managers generally have to understand on their teams what roles they have there, how those roles actually function, what they're responsible for, so they can identify strengths and weaknesses in their own team. But generally what happens is you get all those people into a room and you bust out a whiteboard and you literally just start from the beginning. You write strengths out on the whiteboard and you go person by person to start talking about your strengths. Maybe your strengths are your team. Maybe you have an incredible product. Maybe you've got first movers advantage, whatever it is. The purpose of having the whole team together is everyone's going to have a little take on what your strengths are. So you literally just go line by line and write them all down. You generally try to do strengths first because it gets the juices flowing. When you're in a group setting like that, it's a lot easier for people to start spitting out the things that they feel like their team or the team as a whole has been doing well. And once you get that going, everyone's getting that conversation going. You get the entire strengths column filled out where you feel pretty comfortable with it. You can always come back and add to it, of course, but that's the purpose of the first section of the exercise. Then you move on to weaknesses. Now, since you already got the juices flowing, most of the time people are starting to identify the weaknesses and they're okay to be a little more vocal about it. And you literally just go person to person, line by line, and you fill out the whiteboard all the way down with all of your weaknesses. Then next, of course, you move on to opportunities, and then next you move on to threats. Once you have all this information down in front of you, the entire team can look at it and start to figure out what direction they want to go on that initiative or the company or whatever specific topic you did the SWOT analysis on. Now, I said you do this subconsciously just with yourself in your daily life, but you naturally, of course, want to lean into your strengths. And then in many cases, you need to look at your weaknesses and figure out which ones of those you would like to improve and which ones that you basically just need to outsource, right? Like there's certain things I'm never going to be good at. All right, sorry guys, I got distracted. My kid came in, it's his birthday today. He wants to hang out, so I'm gonna try to wrap up this video, but I'm not sure exactly where I was, but I apologize about that, lost my train of thought. But basically, I think what I was talking about was when you're doing this SWOT analysis internally, self-conscious or subconsciously, when you're trying to do something, maybe it's a business venture that you want to go in or whatever it is. This could even be trying to be successful at fitness or cooking or whatever. You're generally going to identify the stuff that you're really good at. You're also going to identify your weaknesses and decide if you want to improve those or, like I said, outsource them. You're always going to identify the opportunities. How could I make this happen if I hired more people? Or if I did this or I did that. Positive trends. I mean, it could be as simple as, hey, I'm trying to grow my own social media platform. I'm really good at dancing. Right now, TikTok videos are a trend that's booming. If I dance well and record it on there, I can take advantage of the trend and then blow up and go viral, right? That's just one stupid example. And then, of course, threats, right? A threat in that exact example is because China controls the algorithm for TikTok, the US is thinking about taking it down. So if you put all your eggs in one basket and say, I'm just going to blow up my TikTok and that's all I'm going to do, and the US decides to take it down, that of course is a potential threat. So this is just all stuff you want to identify. And it's extremely, extremely important to do this. Now, whether you call it a SWOT analysis or it's a quarterly business review or whatever avenue you want to take to be extremely critical of your business or your project or your protocol, it really needs to happen. Because that's the only way you get better, that's the only way you improve, and that's the only way in some ways you can predict the future, because you've identified threats and you're putting out potential ways to pivot if you run into those threats. If you don't identify them, then when you come up, you're just being reactionary. You're just trying to solve the problem right then. So stuff like this is really, really important for all businesses. So anyway, as you can see, Drip Coach was kind enough to go in and do a SWOT analysis on Drip Network, the project in itself. So he goes section by section, of course, really thoroughly, does strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and he discusses what the potential bullet points would be for each of these. So I thought, of course, this was really intriguing. This is right up my alley as far as exercises and things like that I would do to get better. Drip Coach reached out to me and just said, hey, have you watched that recent video? What'd you think of it? So I figured since he was asking, maybe other people thought, they might have thought, I wonder what Scott's opinion is on this. So that's why I'm making the video. As you know, with Drip being pretty much stalled out for about the last year and new developments coming the first of next year, we got to keep creating content on it. I personally can't say the same thing over and over again, so I have to come up with new and fresh content. And thank you to my man Drip Coach for always deep diving into this stuff. I will say that there is a lot of videos that he does that I think about beforehand. I'm like, man, I'd like to do a video on that. And then he does a massive deep dive for me and really, frankly, saves me a ton of time. I mean, he does all the footwork. And a lot of times he's uncovering things that I wouldn't necessarily think about. So appreciate you, Drip Coach. Like I said, I think your content is underrated, and this one's no exception. So let's just get right into it. What I think I'll do here to not make the video too long, I'm already long-winded as it is I'll just jump to the parts where he discusses the bullet points for the entire SWOT analysis, just each individual piece, and then I'll give him my color commentary on it. So hopefully that'll help shed some light on what I think of the project and where it's going and the full deal. So first, let's jump to strengths, which is right around here.
In the Telegram group, it's around this number as well. So anyway, strengths. So when we look at strengths of the Drip Network, we definitely have one of the strongest communities in the DeFi space. You could argue that the ADA Army and the XRP Army and Shiba Inu and Doge, those are much bigger communities for sure. But in DeFi, I believe we would be one of the strongest and the loudest. So that is a definite strength for us. Innovation, we have seen Forex. He was the first one to create REAP, a reflectionary token on the ERC20 network, and then he forked that to be REAP, and then also took the bankroll flow from Tron and brought over some other innovation into the space. And we can see that the Animal Farm is completely innovative. Even though this is only about Drip, we do see that he is definitely innovative in trying to do new things in the space. So that is a clear strength as well. Sustainability. This is based off of the fact that the Drip Network.
So I'll pause it here and I'll just hit these bullet points myself, but he's dead on. So he's basically, I think most of the ones he's called out here are the strengths that I would think about too. The community is one of the best in DeFi, right? I think we're the biggest in DeFi. Like I said, that in crypto, Shiba and stuff like that, some of those communities may be larger in number count. But as far as like DeFi and any type of daily ROI protocol and anyone who's been able to build a community around an ecosystem, I think Drip Network is the strongest community. I'd like to hear a case for any other project. Innovation, as he referenced, say what you want about Forex Shark, but the guy is truly innovative. Is he innovative on a timeline that works for most of us? Of course not. But the guy comes up with some incredible ideas. And once he finally starts getting things rolling, he will eventually deliver. We saw that with the Animal Farm, delayed. You saw a ton of FUD come out and say, basically, it's never going to happen. He's doing a slow rug pull or whatever this nonsense was. Once the project was finished, the protocol was ready, it was launched, and it's working great. So I have no doubt in my mind that the rest of the innovation that he's coming up with is in his head as he continues to hire the team and the developers and everything. That stuff will eventually come out. So I think the stuff that he's going to do is going to be truly innovative in the space, and that's why he's considered one of the GOATs of the space. He comes up with stuff and is able to implement it even though it takes longer than we would like. Sustainability, Drip's been around for 20 months now, still functioning, no changes to the contract, whatever. Price looks terrible, but that's part of the deal. Next, proven track record. That kind of just referenced that when I talked about innovation. Forex Shark comes out with these things. Eventually they do come out. There's never been an exploit or a hack or anything like that. Next up on strengths, he has a no dev fee on here, which I think is pretty interesting because in my mind, this came up both as a strength and as a weakness. So having no dev fee is great. Forex just isn't sitting back collecting a dev fee for every transaction that happens or whatever. So people can never use that against him and just say, hey, he's just getting rich from Drip because he's constantly creating dev fees, but he's not coming out with these new things that he's talking about. So none of that's happening. Why I would consider it possibly a weakness is because he's not necessarily, besides like, his ego and just personal motivations to make something successful, he's not really benefiting from it at all. If Drip lives on or Drip dies tomorrow, it won't make a monetary difference for him. The positive upside is if it lives on, of course, his name will get better. It'll be more synonymous with success and it will help any future projects he wants to do. Next up in strengths is the contract is immutable. That could also technically be a weakness because it'd be nice to be able to tweak some things, but I think it's much more of a strength because it's set in place. It's never been hacked. People know what to expect. It's always going to pay out 1% daily in Drip no matter what happens. So as long as the Binance, smart chain is around, this contract will still be running. We have no idea what the price is going to be, but I definitely think that leans more towards strength than weakness. Future utility roadmap, a lot of great stuff coming. That is, certainly a strength. And then Forex Shark himself. I think Forex Shark is definitely one of the best developers in the space. I think he has really good intentions. Sometimes the deployment of some of the things he wants to do are really slow or doesn't come across in the best way. But I don't think we'd be anywhere close to this, and I don't think that this project in itself could live on without Forex Shark and continue to be successful, right? Obviously the contract's going to be around forever. So if Forex Shark happens to get hit by a bus tomorrow, I think we're in serious trouble. But as long as he's around, I think he's the greatest asset to the project, obviously. Next up, let's jump to weaknesses. I won't play the audio because this video is already going to be too long. So let me just go through weaknesses, communication, and I would agree with this one too. I would say though that Forex is pretty active. He goes dark sometimes, but not really too much. I would just say there's certain aspects to the communication that aren't very good, or that historically haven't been very good. I do think they've been getting better, but there's been some pockets where I don't think they've been good at all. And a lot of this has to do, the communication has to do with like how a marketing team would actually do that communication. What type of talk tracks are you going to work on? What angles are you going to take? What positions are you going to take as a company as a whole? I think Forex operates all by himself, so really only his opinion comes out. He may have some team members that think a little bit differently, or everyone's working on different talk tracks, so those talk tracks change as things fall apart. It just hasn't been extremely efficient and consistent, and I think a lot of time if you have a marketing team that helps you with PR, that smooths a lot of that out. And I think a big issue is Forex Shark created this protocol. It was small. It's fine when you work on a 1 or 2 man team when you got a small project. But if you've got 50, 60, 70,000 customers, then all of a sudden you need to continue to build teams. And you need to give your teams some autonomy to run their certain sections of the business. That means PR, operations, project management, different marketing angles, different marketing teams. That build out of a team started way too late, and I think it's been pretty challenging. I'll talk about more about that in a second. Transparency, I would agree. Sometimes there's issues with transparency, and there's some of the information that comes out that I feel would be a little shaky. Forex's greatest weakness, of course, is deadlines. Forex can't meet a deadline to save his life. He wants everything to be perfect, and I think in his mind, he's thinking this is how long it should take to develop, but he has not developed the right team yet. He's at a point, he says now, where things are starting to click, but we need to be at a point where things are clicking and feeling like they're running full speed, and he's just making some slight pivots. So maybe in like 90 days, we're gonna be like, man, the team is just knocking things out one after another, and we actually are getting something released every single month. Right now, we've been talking about things getting released every single month, but it's actually not happening. So deadlines, I think, has a lot to do with the team he's put together, and the lack of cohesiveness so far. That stuff builds over time, and I think it's particularly challenging for him because everyone's remote. So time, Forex Shark is also in the weakness column. I agree, Forex is his own worst enemy. I think most people would say, and this is not FUD, Forex is brilliant, right? If Forex was working for a Fortune 500 company, they would be getting him PR training. because he's brilliant for sure, but he needs to find a different way to articulate stuff to normal humans, which are his customers. So he's got those issues, and I think he sometimes puts himself in a position where it either has to be perfect or it's going to look like it's a major mess up, but it's not really. He just kind of set it up that way. So I think he's got to do a better job of kind of positioning the way he rolls stuff out and the way he phrases stuff just to make life easier on himself. He says a lot of stuff. He misses those deadlines. People hold him to his word, and then they think Forex Shark is not dependable. When really, if he just changed his talk track and didn't promise things on a specific timeline and all that, then people would look at him like he's being dishonest. Because in the end, like I said, I don't think he is. I think in his mind, he thinks this is how long this should take. It should be released by then, but it never actually comes to fruition on that same timeline, just because things are more difficult. The team is scattered, a lot of stuff like that. Next, he says business management experience. And I would agree with this 100%. Forex Shark is a lone wolf. He's used to working, pretty much by himself or with another partner. And if you're just going back and forth with one person, there's not a lot of things that you need to technically manage. When you start dealing with personnel, and this guy, if you are a manager or you own a business, you know exactly what it's like to deal with employees. People are calling in sick. People are saying the work's done and they're not. People are saying this or that. And the best managers know how to move their team around and work with their team to make sure that they're getting the most out of everybody. They know the people that need to get micromanaged. They know the people that don't want to be micromanaged. And you develop those skills, those leadership skills over time in the real world. And I don't think Forex has any of that experience. So he's developing those skills on the fly. And I don't think Forex Shark is particularly known for playing well with others, right? I think Forex Shark is a visionary. He knows it. He's very likely on the spectrum. He wants things done his way, or he doesn't want to do them at all. So when you bring other external ideas in and everything, you eventually are going to have a clash there. So it takes a little bit of time to learn that stuff. And I think we've all been witness to the growing pains of him trying to figure out how to grow as a leader, but also build a team. All these guys are remote, so they're not sitting face to face. When you sit face to face with somebody and you tell them something they need to do, you can tell whether they're understanding what you're talking about or not. When you're behind a screen and maybe you can't even see their face, you can't really tell if they're really getting it, if they can actually meet that timeline, or if they're just telling you what you want to hear. So I think a great weakness to me is how the operation of employees go. And he's kind of got that here. The business structure and org chart, that's been a major issue. So you got Forex on top, of course. At this point, he has not had a good chief operating officer. He does not have one, and I think he really needs one. So eventually, hopefully that role will get filled. Up until now, he hasn't had a chief marketing officer that's really done the job well. He says he feels like he has those people in place right now, but that has yet to be seen. So I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. Project management to this point hasn't been ideal because we've missed every single timeline we've set. The job of a project manager is to be working with all the different devs, making sure they're meeting timelines, got everything out in a Gantt chart, so eventually on a certain date things get accomplished and then you can launch on the date you were expecting, or at least close to it. Delays are going to happen, but a project manager is involved in that entire process and is frankly responsible for helping meet that deadline. If he's on those people and making sure that Forex is checking the work and everything, then that stuff gets met. So as far as an org chart and his team, I think he should have started building the team 6 months before he did. I think it's very difficult for him to build a team because of a few factors. A, everyone's remote, so it's like herding cats. And anytime you get some of these young guys who are lone wolves too, they don't really want to answer to anybody. A lot of these guys and developers, a lot of times they're introverts anyway, so they're not really heavy communicators. I think the way Forex very likely has their incentive packages set up is he's not paying them for their working hours. They'll get bonused at the end of the project. So if I'm involved in a project, let's just say I'm doing one piece of it, and there's a group of developers and marketers and all that stuff doing it, and I don't get paid till the project ends, and these other guys are not doing their jobs, and it keeps getting delayed and it keeps getting delayed and it keeps getting delayed, that means I'm working for free until they get their jobs done. And all that does is demotivate me from continuing to work, because I don't know if and when those guys will ever get their jobs done. So I think I have a sneaking suspicion that that's how the incentive packages are working. And so that to me would also be a weakness. People aren't motivated to work in the short term because eventually they get burnt out and they're just waiting for that long-term payoff. And they can't get the long-term payoff because other people on the team aren't pulling their weight. And it's not like these guys can go over to Tom's desk and say, Tom, why are you not caught up on this? These guys are all dealing virtual. They probably can't see each other's faces. So that's a general weakness that teams, in-person teams, have a little easier time at. Another weakness for Drip Network would be they can't really market it. because it's a daily ROI protocol, it just keeps getting bucketed in this high risk category. It's like Forex has said a bunch of times, it's heavily gate kept. It's going to be hard to run ads to. It's hard to get interviews for. It's just hard to market for in general. So my thoughts on that are just stop trying to market it. Let the YouTubers do what they've done for the last 20 months. You come out with cool developments, everything's running smooth. The YouTubers everywhere, there's hundreds of us, I feel like. They're going to relay that information. It's going to get out to everybody. And I think the marketing vehicle for Drip is really set up on YouTube. Animal Farm's totally different. Next up, we got opportunities. I'll hit these quick. Global crypto adoption. Listen, a very small percentage of people have actually adopted crypto. So when that happens, we're going to see a lot more capital. I mean, like a tremendous amount more capital, thousands and thousands and thousands of times more capital than we have now flow into crypto and then anything DeFi related. Next, he's got the bull market, of course, maybe 12 to 18 months out. We'll see exactly when that happens. But when that happens, if everything is set up well, Drip Network, Animal Farm, everything that's done well in DeFi space, and has stood the test of time is going to absolutely boom. So that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that he comes out with utility and we can get the price floor up to, even if it's just a couple bucks, and get our way through the bear market. Once the bull market hits, everything is going to launch. So that's a big opportunity. Additional devs is big. I like the fact that he's building out separate dev teams. I think that's really important. That way, if the team's working on Scratchy and another team's working on Drip, and they come out a week from each other, they're not waiting to move one dev team over to another project. It just doesn't make any sense. Once your business gets large enough, you need separate teams doing separate things. They, of course, will communicate, but they're hyper-focused on one thing instead of being scattered. That's way more efficient, and that's how they do it in the normal corporate world for a reason. Additional business personnel. I just think in general, over time, I'm hoping that we really do see someone in the form of a chief operating officer who has some pull, who can actually make decisions and relieve Forex of those. It's got to be someone Forex trusts to hand over the reins to make those decisions. Sure, they'll have it out once in a while, but that needs to work. Same thing with marketing. These marketing teams need to be working on everything and just reporting back the high level stuff to Forex. Forex does not need to be in the day-to-day of marketing. Like a CEO or a head of the company, the visionary, doesn't need to be involved in all the granular things. And right now he is. So that's a weakness. That building out the personnel and building out the dev team and the org chart, if you will, is going to be extremely important. Competitor buyouts, yep, important. Animal Farm, of course, I think is awesome. We can figure out how to bridge the two systems together and get a little more traction there. And then the biggest thing is just all the utility that he has. It's a major opportunity. He's got some amazing ideas. He just has to figure out how to make them come to fruition on a timeline that matches where we're at. If we had a couple more of these things had already come out, there'd be a little more hope. But since everything's pretty much been going downhill for the last year, and then you couple that with the bear market, it's obviously not ideal. And last but not least, threats, right? So crypto regulation, we all know it's coming. For the FTX debacle, you got exchanges going under. I don't know if this was all a setup to enter some more regulation, or if it's just the perfect storm. We do need some regulation. I would agree with that, because without some regulation, then big time investment capital can't come in. They're not allowed to invest in securities like that aren't regulated. So we definitely need that. But regulation also, in a lot of cases, is a bad thing. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But the crypto regulation is a very gray area. It could go our way or it could go against us heavy. Binance failure, I don't know. I don't see Binance failing personally. If it does, I feel like we have way bigger issues. I think there's more transactions happening on the Binance smart chain right now than on Ethereum. I think I saw something like that today. So it's like the most transacted on network. So to me, if Binance goes under, DeFi's done. Threats, competitors' adaptation speed. Let's be honest here. There are some really good developers in the space. And eventually those guys are going to come together. And eventually they're going to steal ideas or take ideas and improve on them. And if those teams work really efficiently and they work faster and they have some other innovative ideas, it will kill our first mover's advantage. So we do, we can't wait forever for this stuff, because people catch up, and specifically in the tech world. As soon as people see that maybe this space is lucrative, you're going to have people leaving the big companies. They're going to leave Meta. They're going to leave Facebook. They're going to leave some of these top tier jobs to start up DeFi projects on their own. And they're going to be really, really talented people. Forex is not the only talented dev in the space. And eventually eventually, if things are coming out slow, people will exploit that. It's just how it is. It's how all business works. Blockbuster was an absolute king, and then eventually people like Netflix came out and found a better way to do it. So Threat's last one, Forex Shark, I don't know. If he gets hit by a bus, we're in some serious trouble. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I think in general, with all Forex's strengths and weaknesses, we're much better off with him than without him. I think my biggest thing to close it out, my absolute biggest thing, is Forex needs to build a team that he can trust and then give them the responsibility, the autonomy, the leeway to actually make decisions and move this thing forward. Because I think there's a category that Forex is absolutely, in this category, Forex is absolutely the best there is. So he needs to be focusing on that 20% and leave the rest of the 80% to his team and the experts that are the people that are experts in those categories. So anyway, guys, that's my breakdown on it. I have to run to a Christmas party. Let me know what you think of the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to Coach's channel and mine. Happy investing.